The lasagna was still warm in my hands as I climbed the front steps of my parents' house. Sunday dinner had been a tradition since I was old enough to remember, and even though I now lived 40 minutes away and worked 60-hour weeks, I never missed it. The familiar scent of Mom's garlic bread wafted through the screen door, mixing with the sound of muffled voices from inside. I was about to knock when I heard my name. Sophie won't be a problem. She never says no to family. That was my father's voice coming from the kitchen. I froze, my hand suspended inches from the door. But 300,000? That's insane. How did you even? My mother's voice was strained, worried in a way I rarely heard. It doesn't matter how. That was Nathan, my older brother. His tone was defensive, sharp. What matters is that I need it handled before they start the legal proceedings. You said you'd help. We will, Dad said firmly. Your sister's got that promotion, remember? Senior financial analyst at that big firm downtown. She's probably making, what, $150,000 a year now? More, Nathan said. She mentioned something about bonuses. My stomach turned to ice. The lasagna dish suddenly felt like it weighed 100 pounds. We'll tell her it's for the house, Mom said, and I could hear her rationalizing already. That tone she used when she was convincing herself something wrong was actually right. Say we need repairs for the roof, the foundation. Maybe 30,000 at first, then medical bills. I'll say I need some procedures. We can spread it out over a few months. She'll give it, Dad agreed. She always does. Remember when Nathan needed that business loan 5 years ago? 20,000, no questions asked. Never even asked for it back when the business failed. That's because Sophie doesn't understand how the real world works, Nathan said, and I could practically hear his smirk. She still thinks family means something. It's almost sad. Don't talk about your sister that way, Mom said, but it was weak, perfunctory. I'm just saying, she's always been naive. Remember when she gave you guys her entire signing bonus to help with the mortgage? $40,000 just handed over. Who does that? A good daughter, Dad said, but there was something in his tone that made it sound like he was saying a foolish daughter. Exactly. So we'll milk this. Take care of my debt, maybe have some left over for that vacation house you've been wanting. Sophie won't even realize what's happening. We'll space out the requests, make each one sound desperate. She can't say no when Mom cries. I don't like lying to her, Mom said quietly. It's not lying, Nathan countered. We're family. Her money is family money. Besides, she doesn't have kids, doesn't have a husband. What's she spending it on anyway? That stupid apartment downtown. The one she worked her ass off to afford. I thought bitterly, my hands shaking. She'll be fine, Dad said with finality. Sophie's always been fine. That's what she does. She handles things. And we need this handled. Nathan, you're sure there's no other way? Unless you want me in federal prison for tax evasion and fraud, no. This is it. My lawyer says if I can pay it back before the audit goes deeper, they'll probably let it go with penalties. Tax evasion. Fraud. My successful brother, the one with the Mercedes and the McMansion, the one my parents bragged about at every family gathering, was a criminal, and they were planning to make me pay for it. We'll start next week, Mom said. After dinner today, I'll mention the roof. Plant the seed. Make it good, Nathan said. Cry if you have to. Sophie turns into pudding when you cry. I backed away from the door slowly, silently, my whole body trembling. The lasagna dish slipped slightly in my sweaty palms. But I caught it. Couldn't drop it. Couldn't make a sound. Couldn't let them know I'd heard everything. My car was parked on the street, and I made it there on legs that felt like jelly. I sat in the driver's seat, the lasagna growing cold on my lap, and tried to process what I'd just heard. My family, the people I'd sacrificed everything for, were planning to con me, to manipulate me, to use my love for them as a weapon against me. The $40,000 signing bonus I'd given them. I'd lived on ramen for a year to build back my savings. The $20,000 for Nathan's business. I'd canceled the vacation I'd been planning for 3 years. Every time they needed money, I'd given it without question, thinking I was being a good daughter, a good sister. And they saw me as a mark, a knave fool to be exploited. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Where are you, sweetie? Dinner's ready. I stared at it for a long moment, then typed back, sorry, got called into work. Emergency audit, rain check. 3 dots appeared immediately. Oh no. But we have something important to discuss. Can it wait? The roof. She was going to start with the roof, just like I planned. Sorry, Mom. Boss says it's urgent. Love you. I drove home in a daze, the lasagna still on the passenger seat like evidence of my old life. The life where I believed my family loved me, not just my bank account. By the time I reached my apartment, a plan was already forming in my mind. They wanted to play games. Fine, but they'd chosen the wrong mark. That night, I sat at my computer and began moving money. Every savings account, every investment, every liquid asset. I transferred all of it to new accounts they didn't know about. Then I called my bank and put fraud alerts on everything, changed all my passwords, set up two-factor authentication. My phone rang constantly. Mom, Dad, Nathan. I let them all go to voicemail. Monday morning, I walked into my boss's office and asked for a meeting. Karen Richards was a sharp woman in her 50s who'd built her career on reading people and situations. I need some advice, I said, closing the door behind me. Personal, not professional, but it might affect my work. She leaned back in her chair, studying me. Go on. I told her everything. The overheard conversation, the pattern of financial exploitation, Nathan's legal troubles. She listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each detail. First, she said when I finished, you're handling this remarkably well. Most people would be a mess. Second, you need a lawyer. Not for you, for protection against what they might try. Third, and this is important, you need to document everything. Every request for money, every transaction, every communication. I've already started, I said, showing her the spreadsheet I'd begun. 5 years of financial hemorrhaging, all laid out in black and white. Nearly $200,000, gone. Karen whistled low. Sophie, I'm going to give you some advice that's probably overstepping, but I think you need to hear it. Your family is not your responsibility. Their debts, their crimes, their choices, none of that is on you. I know, I said, though I wasn't sure I believed it yet. I'm also going to suggest something else. We have an opening in our London office. Same position, better pay, and most importantly, an ocean between you and them. Interested? London, 3,000 miles away from the family that saw me as an ATM. When would I start? Next month. We'd handle the visa, moving expenses, everything. Consider it a fresh start. That night, the calls became frantic. 23 missed calls from Mom. 15 from Dad. 31 from Nathan. The voicemails progressed from concerned to angry to desperate. Sophie, this is ridiculous. Call your mother back. Sweetie, please. We're worried about you. Stop being a drama queen and answer your phone. Sophie, this is serious. Nathan needs our help. Family helps family. Tuesday, I finally answered Nathan's call. Jesus Christ, Sophie. Where have you been? Working. I said calmly. You know, at that job you all think is just a fountain of free money. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm busy, Nathan. What do you want? We need to talk. As a family, can you come to dinner tomorrow? Can't. I have plans. Plans? What plans are more important than family? The kind where people don't scheme to defraud me out of $300,000. The silence was deafening. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. Tax evasion and fraud, Nathan? Really? And you were going to make me pay for it. Tell Mom and Dad to lie to me, manipulate me. You were listening. You were eavesdropping on our private conversation. I was bringing lasagna for family dinner. Remember family? That thing you said I foolishly believe means something. Sophie, listen, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You were planning to con me, your own sister. The one who's bailed you out for years. I'm in trouble, Soph. Real trouble. I could go to prison. Then you should have thought of that before committing fraud. Are you seriously going to let me go to prison? Over money? Money you can afford to spare. I couldn't afford the $40,000 I gave Mom and Dad. I couldn't afford the $20,000 I gave you. I couldn't afford any of it, but I gave it anyway because I thought that's what family does. Turns out I was wrong about what family means. Sophie, please. I hung up. The texts started immediately. From Nathan, begging. From Mom, guilt-tripping. From Dad, demanding. I archived them all without reading. Wednesday brought a new tactic. Mom showed up at my office building at lunch, tears streaming down her face. Sophie, please. Just talk to me. I'm your mother. I stood there in the marble lobby, watching the woman who'd given birth to me sob dramatically, and felt nothing. The tears that had always worked on me before seemed hollow now, theatrical. "We can talk," I said. "Right here. In public. Can't we go somewhere private?" "No. Say what you need to say." She glanced around at the people passing by, clearly uncomfortable. "Your brother is in trouble." "I know. Tax evasion and fraud. He told me. He made mistakes, but he's family. We have to help him." "No, you have to help him. He's your son. Use your money." "We don't have that kind of money, you know that." Then Nathan should have thought of that before breaking federal law. "How can you be so cold? This isn't like you." "You're right. The old Sophie would have already written the check. The old Sophie believed you when you said family helps family. But the old Sophie didn't know that her family was planning to con her, to use her love against her." Mom's face went pale. "How did you? Does it matter? What matters is that I know exactly what you all think of me. The knave daughter. The family ATM. The mark. We never said. She'll never say no to family. She doesn't understand how the real world works. Sophie turns into pudding when you cry. Should I go on?" "Real tears now, not the manufactured ones. We were desperate." "No, you were greedy. There's a difference." I left her there in the lobby and went back to work. That afternoon, I accepted the London position. Thursday was quiet. Too quiet. No calls, no texts, no surprise visits. It made me nervous. Friday, I found out why. I was packing up my desk for the weekend when security called up. "Ms. Winters, there's a process server here for you." My family was suing me for the money I'd already given them, claiming they were loans that I was now demanding repayment on, causing them severe emotional and financial distress. I looked at the papers, then laughed. Actually laughed. They were trying to legally force me to give them money by claiming I was forcing them to give me money. It was so absurd, so desperately pathetic, that I couldn't even be angry. I called the lawyer Karen had recommended. "They have no case," she said after I'd emailed her the documents. "No written agreements, no documentation. This is harassment, plain and simple. We'll countersue if you want." "No," I said. "I don't want their money. I just want them gone." That weekend, I started packing, not just for London, but for a new life. One where love wasn't transactional, where family meant more than shared DNA, where I wasn't valued solely for my bank account. Nathan called one last time from a number I didn't recognize. "You're really going to let me go to prison?" "I'm not letting you do anything, Nathan. You're going to prison because you committed crimes. That's called consequences. I could lose everything. I've already lost everything. My family, my trust, my faith in the people who were supposed to love me. But you know what? It's liberating. I don't have to pretend anymore that you all care about me as anything more than a checkbook." "That's not true. Nathan, you literally sat in Mom's kitchen and planned out how to manipulate me. You laughed about how naive I am, how I don't understand the real world. Well, congratulations. I understand it now. Sophie, please, I'm begging you. Beg someone else. I'm done." I hung up and blocked the number. The movers came on a Tuesday. I watched them pack up my life, each box a step further from the family that had used me. My phone had been silent for days. They'd finally given up. As I was doing a final walkthrough of my empty apartment, I found a lasagna dish in the back of a cabinet. The one I'd been carrying that Sunday, full of food made with love for people who saw me as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. I threw it in the trash. At the airport, waiting for my flight to London, I got one last text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it unread, but curiosity won. It was from my mom. "I'm sorry, not for needing help, but for how we planned to get it. You deserved better. I hope someday you can forgive us." I stared at it for a long time, then typed back, "I hope someday you can deserve forgiveness." Then I turned off my phone and boarded the plane. 6 months later, I got word through my lawyer that Nathan had been sentenced to 18 months in federal prison. My parents had lost their house trying to pay for his legal defense. They'd moved in with my aunt in Florida. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no anger. They were strangers now, people I'd once known in a different life. My new life in London was everything the old one wasn't. I had colleagues who became real friends, relationships built on mutual respect rather than exploitation. I learned to trust again slowly, carefully. And sometimes, on quiet Sunday mornings, I'd make lasagna just for myself, remembering the girl who used to carry her heart in a casserole dish, hoping this time her family would see her as more than just a bank account. That girl was gone now. In her place was someone stronger, someone who understood that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is walk away from people who only love what you can give them. Family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up for you without checking your bank balance first. And sometimes the only person who truly shows up for you is yourself. That's the real world. And now, finally, I understand it.
A man showed up at our door, saying my daughter ran off without paying $3,000 at his fancy steakhouse, said Bill. He claimed to be the head chef, but I couldn't believe it. I'm Layla, 30 years old, living with my husband Daniel and our daughter Emma. There was no way Emma could do such a thing. I stood firm against their fierce expressions, defending my daughter's innocence. I was tricked by an ex-boyfriend who took $3,000 from me and then disappeared when I found out I was pregnant with his baby. I tried to contact him, but he was gone. I was left alone, divorced and almost broke. But I didn't give up. I had Emma and was ready to face whatever came next. Then the news came that my ex was arrested. The man who told me was Daniel, now my husband. He stood by me through everything, even though I was tired and worn out. Despite our age gap, I was drawn to Daniel's strength and reliability. I worried he wouldn't accept me because I was divorced, but he did. Now we're happily together, with a good relationship with Daniel's parents. One day, I got a call from Daniel's parents. My mother-in-law's voice, full of warmth, asked if we could visit. They wanted to see their granddaughter, whom they adore despite not being related by blood. I happily agreed and promised to let Daniel know. After exchanging pleasantries, my mother-in-law ended the call. It takes about 5 hours to reach their countryside home from the city where we live. When Daniel returned home in the evening, I excitedly told him about the invitation from his parents. "Well, I haven't taken any vacation this month yet," he replied. "Let's take some time off and go see them. I'll ask my boss if we can have a few days off in a row," Daniel suggested eagerly, dialing his boss for permission. Thankfully, his boss agreed, and we began looking forward to reuniting with his parents after a long while. However, on the day of our visit, Daniel suddenly had to work. "You go ahead. I'll join you as soon as I'm done. It might be late, possibly not until tomorrow morning," he explained, kissing us goodbye before heading to the office. I quickly informed my in-laws about the change of plans and then embarked on the journey with my daughter. As soon as we arrived at my in-laws' house, they welcomed us warmly, and we settled in comfortably. They were eagerly awaiting Daniel's arrival. The next morning, my in-laws went about their usual routine, heading to the barn. I offered to help, but they insisted I relax and enjoy my visit, so I stayed behind, waiting for their return. Suddenly, the doorbell rang too early for Daniel's arrival. Assuming it was a neighbor, I hurried to answer it. "I'm coming," I called out, opening the door to find a stern-looking man in his 70s standing there. He glared at me and then demanded, "I own the local steakhouse. Your daughter ate there and left without paying. You owe me $3,000. His words caught me off guard, and I blinked in surprise. He went on to explain that a young girl had visited his restaurant the previous night, despite being warned that it was too expensive for her. She consumed $3,000 worth of food and drinks before leaving without paying. He claimed she was my daughter and insisted that as her parent, I should foot the bill. I shake my head, trying to explain, but he's too angry to listen. "Can I know your name?" I ask. "It's Ethan. Now pay up," he snaps back. "I need to check with my in-laws if they know you," I respond. "What? Shouldn't you be paying me instead of wasting time?" "Yes, but please give me a moment." I ask him to wait and quickly call my in-laws to confirm something. They respond fast, revealing a surprising fact. Trying to keep my composure, I turn to the man. "I can't pay you," I tell him. "What? You don't care if my business suffers? If you don't pay, I'll call the police," he threatens. "Please, let's try to sort out this misunderstanding," I plead. "There's no misunderstanding. I got her name when she dined." Ethan insists, reaching for his phone to call the police. A policeman happened to pass by, and the steakhouse owner flagged him down to explain the situation. The officer approached me with a stern look and said, "Can we talk?" Confused and intimidated by his gaze, I didn't know what to do. "Your daughter is suspected of dining and dashing. If things remain unresolved, we'll have to take her into custody," he informed me, insisting that I hand over my daughter immediately. "No, there's been a mistake. My daughter wouldn't do such a thing." I protested, but the officer remained firm. Sensing the tension, the steakhouse owner intervened, offering a compromise. "I'm not heartless. If you can pay, I'll forgive her. After all, we're neighbors," he said, looking at me. "Are you sure about this, Ethan?" The officer asked. "Of course. She's just a young girl. It's an honor she wanted to eat at my place," Ethan replied with a laugh. The officer then presented me with an option. "Ethan is giving you a way out. Pay the $3,000 bill and he won't press charges." Despite the pressure, I stood firm in my decision. As I tried to explain, the steakhouse owner's face turned red with anger, and he shouted, "You're rejecting my kindness. Is this how you've taught your daughter to behave? Don't play games with me. Please calm down. Why were you refusing to pay? If you don't, your daughter will face serious consequences," the police officer interjected, looking puzzled. "I can't agree to this without considering all the facts," I responded, but the steakhouse owner interrupted with a laugh, saying, My apologies. Are you saying you don't have $3,000 on you right now? No worries. We all forget things as we get older. We do accept credit cards at our establishment. If you trust me with your card, I can process the payment now and return it to you later. How does that sound?" With that, he gestured for me to fetch my wallet. I declined to hand over my credit card, expressing concern about the risk, and instead offered to accompany him to settle the payment. However, the steakhouse owner responded with threats, raising his fist and shouting, "Don't you trust me? I'm in the credit business. Be careful what you say, or you'll regret it." When I insisted on accompanying him, he became agitated, yelling, "You're disrespecting me. I have connections with influential organizations. If you can't pay, I have ways to make you pay $3,000. That's why I've involved the police." Shocked by his words, I looked to the police officer for assistance, but he avoided eye contact, feigning ignorance. "Officer, did you hear that? Is this allowed?" I asked, seeking help. The officer avoided the question, stating, "I didn't hear anything. Just pay the money and everything will be resolved." "Layla, just follow instructions," the officer insisted sternly. I was stunned. How could a police officer say that? I felt bewildered as the steakhouse owner continued to intimidate me with his threats. Most people would give in to their demands to avoid trouble, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. Aren't the police supposed to protect citizens? Why were they siding with him? Despite my desperate pleas, the officer remained silent, refusing to intervene. Feeling helpless, I turned to the steakhouse owner. "Why won't you listen?" he growled, glaring at me. "It's not that I'm not taking you seriously. I can't believe I'm in this situation," I thought to myself, steadfastly refusing to comply. But neither the officer nor the steakhouse owner seemed willing to listen to reason. As I pondered my next move, a taxi pulled up outside our house, and my husband stepped out, looking puzzled. "What's going on?" "Who are these people?" he asked, bewildered. "Sir, your wife needs to take responsibility." "Let me explain," the officer began, but my husband's expression quickly changed to surprise as he listened. Then, with a mischievous grin, he seemed to understand everything. "Sorry for the confusion. My apologies. By the way, officer, which department do you work for? Can I see your badge?" My husband inquired suddenly, catching everyone off guard. The officer hesitated but eventually produced his badge from his pocket. This looks suspicious," my husband remarked, causing the officer to start sweating nervously. Daniel chuckles and says, "Just kidding." The police officer, visibly relieved, manages a forced smile. Daniel then asks about the officer's department and rank. "Is that necessary right now?" The officer responds nervously. "I'm just curious," Daniel says. "I'm a constable stationed at the police box," the officer answers. "Ah, I see. You must be new around here. Thanks for your service, Daniel replies politely. Yes, I'm still getting acquainted. Would you mind if I contact your station? Can I use the name on your badge? Daniel asks, pulling out his phone. Before he can proceed, the officer interrupts. Before we get into that, can you tell me if you're able to pay for Ethan's bill? He urges Daniel for an answer regarding the payment issue. The steakhouse owner, Ethan, appeared taken aback by my husband's assertiveness, his earlier aggression dissipating. You're the husband, so take responsibility, Ethan insisted. Yes, but I don't have a job that pays that much. Daniel responded calmly. That doesn't excuse dodging your bills, Ethan retorted. Unperturbed, Daniel shrugged. Anyway, he continued, can you tell me your gun's serial number? Ethan looked confused. Why? He asked. It's a standard verification method, Daniel explained. Knowing the number doesn't pose a risk. It's widely accepted. The police officer, also puzzled, questioned Daniel's request. Is that so? He inquired. Observing their reactions, my suspicions grew stronger. By the way, Daniel interjected, giving them a stern look. Would you like to hear my take on this dine and dash incident? They both seemed puzzled by his unexpected suggestion. In conclusion, you're a phony cop trying to run a scam with that old man, my husband accused, catching them off guard. Do you have any proof? They retorted. Then prove I'm wrong, my husband challenged. Turning to me, he said, Lee, bring her here. I rushed to bring our precious child forward, positioning her in front of us to prevent any harm. Daniel stood protectively between us. My daughter is only 1 year old. She can't even walk, let alone dine and dash, he asserted. The two were stunned, mouths agape. That's impossible. Is that really Arya Taylor? Ethan questioned. Of course. I'm only 30 years old. When else could I have had my first child? I countered. Ethan, visibly shaken, took a step back, exchanging a glance with the police officer who nodded in agreement. It seems there's been a mistake. Sorry for the confusion, they stammered, preparing to leave. Daniel intervened, blocking their escape routes as they attempted to leave. I retreated to the entrance, observing through a gap in the door. Can you step aside, please? The officer demanded. No, we won't let you go. You might be scammers, and we won't allow it, Daniel countered firmly. Don't try to intimidate us. I'm a police officer. If you don't move, I'll arrest you for obstructing an investigation, the officer threatened, attempting to push past Daniel, but he swiftly moved to block him again. I apologize for not introducing myself earlier. I'm Daniel Taylor, Chief Inspector of the New York Investigation Division, Daniel announced, revealing his genuine police badge. Unlike the officers, Daniel's badge gleamed with authenticity. Who's the liar now? I'm the real deal, he declared confidently. Whether you're genuine or not, you've engaged in fraud, correct? It's a disgrace for someone in law enforcement. Do you even understand the role of the investigation division? Daniel pressed. What are you talking about? You're clueless about the investigation division, he continued. The division handles complex crimes like fraud, embezzlement, counterfeiting, election violations, financial crimes, defamation, and high-tech offenses. In simpler terms, it deals with criminals like you, Daniel explained sternly. With that, he swiftly produced handcuffs and began to arrest them. Unable to resist Daniel's professional approach, the two were quickly subdued. Daniel wasted no time in contacting the authorities. I've apprehended fraudsters on the scene. This is beyond my jurisdiction. Please dispatch officers from the appropriate area immediately, he instructed over the phone. As they heard Daniel's call, the scammers' faces drained of color. Please forgive us. We were desperate for money. It's our first offense. Please let us go, they pleaded. Just then, my in-laws arrived with the police. Are you all right? Sorry for the delay. This guy was terrible at explaining things. My in-laws apologized. It's all right. Wait, you're here too. What a relief, I responded as they embraced me and our daughter. I had been on edge throughout the ordeal, but finally I could relax and exhale a sigh of relief as the two fraudsters were escorted into a police car. Initially, I had suspected only the old man to be involved in the scam. When I phoned my in-laws, I inquired if anyone named Ethan resided nearby. They were unfamiliar with the name, having lived in the area for years and knowing all the residents. Their lack of recognition confirmed that this Ethan was not a local. Moreover, considering my daughter's age of just 1, it was implausible for her to have been involved in any dine and dash scheme. Though I hadn't explicitly requested it, my in-laws grasped the urgency of the situation and promised to summon the police. While awaiting their arrival, I felt a surge of tension, resolved to safeguard my daughter. I had sensed something amiss with the police officer from the moment he appeared. As our conversation progressed, my distrust towards him only deepened. Although I lacked concrete evidence initially, Daniel's interrogation ultimately confirmed my suspicions of his falsity. Thankfully, Daniel's presence had averted a potential disaster this time. However, the thought of what could have transpired in his absence sent shivers down my spine. I'm truly relieved that everything ended safely. With Daniel's assistance and the local authorities' involvement, the case regarding the 2 fraudsters was swiftly resolved. Upon investigation, it became evident that numerous charges awaited them. Daniel recounted the details to me, wearing a mixture of sadness and anger on his face. Surprisingly, it turned out that these individuals were not affiliated with any organization, and their exploits garnered nationwide attention through the news. Thanks to Daniel and my considerate in-laws, I was able to spend an extra day at their home. The news of Daniel's heroic actions spread rapidly, prompting our neighbors to bring over an array of delicacies, turning our gathering into an impromptu celebration. Even our daughter seemed to revel in the joyous atmosphere, remaining cheerful throughout the evening. That night, as I gazed at my daughter's contented face, I couldn't help but bask in the warmth of our happiness.
Our grandson is on his way home, so let's indulge in steak once more, right this moment. Quick, let's get the catering sorted at my in-laws. We treat ourselves to steak through catering once a month, a delightful tradition. Yet again, I find myself left out. How many times has this happened now? Every time we order, my mother-in-law conveniently overlooks my steak, leaving me empty-handed. She's quite assertive, and I just can't seem to stand up to her. I suppose I'll have to endure it once more. Just when I was about to resign myself to the situation, Grandma's actions feel particularly unkind. My name is Raina, a 38-year-old housewife without any remarkable talents. I resorted to a matchmaking service to find my current husband, Craig. Marriage seemed elusive until I met Craig, who shared my passion for movies. Our bond blossomed over movie dates, leading to a smooth courtship and marriage. Initially kind, Craig's demeanor changed after our son was born. 2 significant changes altered the course of our lives. Firstly, our son's intelligence soared, excelling academically far beyond his age. Despite his brilliance, he faced bullying at school and eventually stopped attending. Encouraged by a teacher, he now studies at Cambridge University in England. The second change was moving into my in-laws' house due to my husband's work relocation. Living with my in-laws was a stark transition. My father-in-law's illness confined him to the hospital, leaving only my mother-in-law at home. As a former working woman turned housewife, adapting to this new life proved challenging, setting the stage for further difficulties ahead. Feeling under the weather, I was greeted on my first day in my husband's family home with a directive. "Work hard for me, young one," my mother-in-law said. Yet she appeared far from unwell, exuding more energy than me. "How old are you, mother-in-law?" I inquired tentatively. 64 this year, my husband replied, his tone tinged with annoyance. Despite her apparent vigor, in this household, her word was law. My husband's warning left me feeling isolated. It was evident my mother-in-law harbored hostility towards me, but I hadn't anticipated my husband's detachment. Even though our marriage had cooled, his abandonment stung. "Let's get to work," my mother-in-law commanded, thrusting an old mop and bucket into my hands. Surveying the dusty corners, I yearned to wield the vacuum cleaner. However, she insisted I tackle it all with the mop, rejecting modern conveniences. "Can I use the vacuum cleaner?" I ventured, hoping to address the dust efficiently. "No, stick to the mop," she curtly replied. Reluctantly, I agreed, concealing my frustration. As I began cleaning, I proposed we work together, but my mother-in-law intervened. asserting that my husband and she would rest while I toiled alone. Daunted by the size of the house, I realized the task was insurmountable solo. To compound matters, my mother-in-law added the chore of dishwashing to my already overflowing plate. Overwhelmed, I struggled to keep pace with her demands, feeling the weight of my new responsibilities bearing down on me. I can't handle it all. The house is too big, I confess, overwhelmed. In response, my mother-in-law offered a solution. I'll permit you to use the vacuum for $10 every 10 minutes. How's that? But the cost was steep, far beyond my means. Her disdain for my financial situation stung, branding me a poor daughter-in-law. My husband, silent and unhelpful, stood by as I endured her belittlement. He even criticized my mopping technique, insisting it was improper to converse while cleaning. The solitude we shared before moving in with his parents had transformed into a form of psychological abuse. Amidst the tension, my mother-in-law announced plans for steak, summoning catering. Though exhausted from cleaning and dishwashing, the promise of steak fueled my determination. I had invested extra effort into preparing for this moment, eagerly anticipating the reward. As the catered steak arrived, my excitement peaked, but my joy was short-lived. Despite my efforts, my mother-in-law declared there was no steak for me, leaving me crestfallen. The disappointment cut deep, shattering my anticipation and leaving me deflated. "I've cleaned the floors and done the dishes," I informed my mother-in-law, only to be met with dismissal. "That's only natural," she replied. "Consider it a token of appreciation for letting you stay. Think of it as paying a fee through your actions. Did you think you could live here for free?" Her words pierced through me, amplifying the sense of hellishness that had engulfed my life since moving into my in-laws' house to do my husband's work. Financially constrained and unable to afford living independently, I relied on a meager monthly allowance of $200 since getting married. After covering essentials and previous expenses, there was nothing left to save. The naive expectation of security as a housewife shattered in the face of harsh reality. As for dinner, my mother-in-law's unpreparedness spoke volumes. While they indulged in high-quality steaks, I was offered noodles. The stark contrast highlighted my subordinate status in the family. Even the act of washing the knife and fork after their meal was the closest I came to the steak. From the very first day, mistreatment became routine, leaving me mentally and physically drained. Amidst this despair, a rare call from our son studying abroad brought a glimmer of warmth. Praising my embroidery, he reminded me of my skills. His words, a balm to my soul, stirred emotions long buried under layers of neglect. But even in my moment of happiness, his keen perception sensed my trembling voice. A testament to his high IQ and psychological acumen, his concern mirrored the distance between us. Yet in his distant words I found solace, a reminder that amidst the darkness there remained a flicker of light. I couldn't believe how much my son had changed. He seemed to have an uncanny ability to see through my facade, sensing something was amiss with Dad. After a moment of silence, I summoned the courage to confide in him about the situation at my in-laws' house. Despite feeling ashamed for airing my troubles, having someone to confide in felt like a lifeline. "It's tough every day," I admitted, but he reassured me. "I'll come over once it's our vacation, and I've saved up some money from my part-time job," he promised, refusing to take no for an answer. With my son's imminent return home, time seemed to fly during our overdue phone call. An hour passed, leaving me feeling rejuvenated by his unwavering support. However, as soon as the call ended, my mother-in-law approached with a sharp glare. "That's quite a luxurious long phone call," she remarked, draining the energy I had gained from our conversation. Despite my apologies, she swiftly shifted the conversation to the upcoming block party, assigning me the task of shopping and making a reservation for steak catering. The day of the block party arrived, and guests began to gather. My mother-in-law, dubbed the president by everyone, was the center of attention. Amidst the festivities, she wasted no time in ordering me around, using me as her servant regardless of who was present. Some guests spoke up in my defense, urging my mother-in-law to treat me more kindly, but her threats silenced them, reminding them of their place in the community. Their initial support quickly waned under her influence, leaving me feeling even more isolated. It became evident that my mother-in-law's control extended beyond our house, permeating the entire area. Against her power, I felt powerless, a mere housewife unable to challenge her authority. The ordered steak arrived, and my mother-in-law joyfully arranged it on the table. Her choice was surprisingly lavish, accompanied by an array of high-end side dishes like caviar and truffles. Yet even amidst the opulence, she couldn't resist lecturing me. "Do you really think you deserve such fine steak as a wife? You're 100 years too early for that," she chided, her words a public humiliation. The sympathetic glances from those around us only deepened my sense of isolation. No one dared oppose her, not even my husband, who quietly savored his steak. Hope flickered within me, hoping for even a small portion of the steak. But my mother-in-law's words dashed those hopes, offering beef noodles instead. Upgraded from the ordinary, but still far from what I craved. Frustration simmered beneath the surface until it boiled over, and I couldn't contain it any longer. "Mother-in-law, this is too much," I exclaimed, my voice breaking the tension. "I've prepared everything for today's block party, and yet you treat me like this." Her response was swift and harsh, shutting down any semblance of rebellion. "Is this true, Reina? Couldn't you show a little kindness?" My husband interjected, hoping to diffuse the situation, but his words fell on deaf ears as my mother-in-law's resolve remained unshaken. Silenced by her intimidation, no one dared challenge her authority. In that moment, it became painfully clear that in this household her word was law, leaving me to navigate a world where my desires and efforts were constantly undermined. "Remember, you must obey mother in this house," my husband's sudden, authoritative voice echoed through the room, causing my body to instinctively flinch. The once lively atmosphere fell silent, and even those who had supported me began to echo his sentiment, filling the room with resounding agreement. Frustrated and overwhelmed, I fled from the scene, seeking solace in the sanctuary of my bedroom. Time seemed to blur as I locked myself away, the weight of the situation bearing down on me until exhaustion claimed me. When I awoke, the block party had dispersed and the night had fallen. Glancing at my phone, I found an email from my son, announcing his imminent arrival. Despite the exhaustion, I drifted back to sleep, awaiting his return. The next morning, I found my mother-in-law in the kitchen preparing breakfast. Without preamble, she remarked on my behavior from the previous day, her words cutting through the air. Informed of my son's impending visit, she immediately pivoted to plans for steak, eager for his return. As evening descended, my son finally arrived home, greeted by a table laden with lavish steaks. Despite his usual enjoyment of the meal, he couldn't help but notice my absence from the feast. Concerned, he questioned my mother-in-law, only to be met with a dismissive response. "It's fine, Reina is always like this," she waved off his concern, redirecting his attention to the meal before him. Despite her apparent happiness at being reunited with her grandson, my son's response was unexpected, his words laden with a depth of emotion I hadn't anticipated. "I don't want it. Why didn't you prepare Mom's portion? This is discrimination, isn't it?" My son's cool demeanor caught both my mother and husband off guard, their surprise evident in their expressions. My mother-in-law, taken aback by his unexpected assertiveness, began to panic, denying any wrongdoing. "What did you hear?" "I didn't do anything," she stammered, but my son remained steadfast, unmasking her behavior with unwavering confidence. "You're always looking down on Mom, aren't you? People like that usually lack confidence or have nothing to be proud of, so they attack others to feel superior. It's a mean personality," he countered, his words piercing through her defenses. As my son continued to confront her, my mother-in-law found herself increasingly cornered, her usual tactics rendered ineffective against his insight. "That's true, isn't it? Everyone has an equal share of steak, but Mom has nothing." "This is clear discrimination," he asserted, his logic irrefutable. Normally, such confrontation would escalate into a fight, but my son's demeanor remained composed, far beyond his years. With each observation, my mother-in-law grew more subdued, her usual confidence waning in the face of his scrutiny. "You're panicking. Your eye movements, habits, and amount of sweat tell the story," my son continued, revealing his studies in psychology at Cambridge University and his keen observation skills. Despite her attempts to maintain composure, my mother-in-law couldn't conceal her discomfort, her facade crumbling under his scrutiny. Watching the exchange unfold, I marveled at my son's poise, while my husband observed in silence. As the tension lingered, my son's final words hung in the air, leaving us all to ponder the implications of his observations. The tension in the room was palpable as my son fearlessly confronted my mother-in-law. "Grandma, do you have any talents?" he asked, his tone cutting through the silence. My mother-in-law, usually quick with a retort, found herself at a loss for words as my son continued, unrelenting. What you did, Grandma, was unfair. Mom excels in embroidery. Her work could even sell in England. My son praised, surprising me with his acknowledgement of my hobby. You, Grandma, have none, yet you try to belittle Mom and assert dominance. Is it because you can't accept someone being superior? As my son's words struck home, my mother-in-law remained speechless, unable to refute his observations. And what about you, Dad? Why didn't you stand up for Mom when she needed help? Were you unable to stand up to Grandma because she's your mother? If so, why did you marry her? My husband, caught off guard by our son's probing questions, could only offer silence in response. My son's relentless critique didn't spare anyone, exposing the underlying dynamics of our family dynamic. You both just want to feel superior and look down on others, he concluded, leaving my husband and mother-in-law speechless. I couldn't help but feel proud of my son's maturity and insight. His suggestion to move to England together took me by surprise, but his reasoning soon became clear. One of my classmates has a father who's a Hollywood actor. He saw pictures of your embroidery and wants to buy your work. There's a waiting list of over 200 people eager to purchase your pieces, he revealed, his smile contagious. Overwhelmed by the unexpected turn of events, I couldn't help but feel grateful for my son's unwavering support and encouragement. With his guidance, perhaps a new chapter awaited us, one where our talents were celebrated, not diminished. As my son shared his unexpected news, both my mother-in-law and husband listened with astonished expressions. Mom, I've taken the liberty of arranging something for you. They want you to open a store with your handmade crafts in the UK, my son explained, his eyes shining with excitement. The thought of turning my hobby into a job, especially in England, left me speechless. While my mother-in-law and husband expressed their disbelief, I found myself considering the possibility. If I was going to face harassment at my in-laws' house anyway, why not pursue my passion as a profession? Moreover, the strained relationship with my husband made staying there unbearable. So, I made up my mind. I'll give it a try, I accepted, much to the shock of my family. And then, I dropped a bombshell. I'm divorcing you. I'm tired of being oppressed by your mother. Let me be free. With that, my husband reluctantly agreed, and my mother-in-law ranted until the end, but I paid her no mind. The divorce was finalized without fuss, and I was finally free from the confines of my in-laws' house. Now, in England, I'm busy preparing to open a shop, insisting on crafting all the products by hand. Despite the initial fear of moving abroad, my son's wholehearted support makes the journey less daunting. Meanwhile, back home, I heard from my son that my former mother-in-law stumbled and ended up in the hospital. With her incapacitated, my ex-husband struggles to manage alone, taking on extra work to cover expenses. While it's a challenging time for them, I hope they find their way forward. As for me, I'm focused on the future, working on the final pieces for the shop's opening. With my son by my side, I feel confident in facing whatever challenges lie ahead. From rescuer to the rescued, our roles have shifted, but as a mother, I'll always support my son, just as he supported me.
There's no room for you on this trip, Jade. Figure it out yourself. My father's words echoed through the international terminal as he walked toward the gate with his new wife and her 3 kids, leaving me standing alone with my useless ticket. At 15, I learned that abandonment comes with a boarding pass, but what happened when I called the mother he said was dead changed everything. Hi everyone, my name is Jade. I'm 24 now. But this story starts when I was 15, standing in LaGuardia Airport, watching my father choose his new family over his old one. The vacation had been planned for months. Turks and Caicos, 7 days at an all-inclusive resort. Dad had promised it would be our chance to bond, to bridge the gap that had grown since the divorce. I'd packed carefully, saved my babysitting money for new swimsuits, told all my friends about the trip. What he hadn't mentioned was that Brittany, his wife of 6 months, would be coming. Or that her 3 kids, Tyler, Madison, and little Emma, would fill every seat he booked. There must be a mistake, I said, checking my boarding pass against the gate agent's screen. I have a ticket. I have a seat. 14B. The agent's smile was sympathetic but firm. I'm sorry, sweetie. That seat's been reassigned. The reservation was changed this morning. I turned to find my father already at the gate, Brittany's manicured hand on his arm. Her children clustered around them like a Christmas card photo I wasn't meant to be in. "Dad." I called out, my voice cracking. "Dad, there's something wrong with my seat." He walked back slowly, like approaching a problem he'd hoped would solve itself. "Listen, Jade. Tyler needs to sit with us. He's got anxiety about flying. The airline made a mistake with the booking. So get another seat. I'll sit in the back, I don't care." "There are no more seats." His tone was flat, final. "Look, you're smart. You can figure this out. Take an Uber home. We'll do something when I get back. You're leaving me at the airport?" My voice rose, drawing stares from other travelers. "I'm 15. Brittany appeared beside him, pressing a tissue to her nose. "Robert, we need to board." Emma's getting fussy. He pulled out his wallet, extracted $200, and pressed it into my hand. "This should cover the Uber and some food. Maybe stay with that friend of yours. What's her name?" "Keisha." "Kendra," I whispered. "Her name is Kendra." "Right. Look, this isn't ideal, but sometimes we have to be flexible." He was already backing away. "We'll talk when I get back. Be mature about this." Mature. The word hit like ice water. I watched them board. Brittany herding her kids, my father carrying Emma's diaper bag, the family unit complete without me. Tyler, the boy who'd taken my seat, turned back once and smirked. The gate agent touched my shoulder gently. "Honey, is there someone you can call?" I nodded, pulling out my phone with shaking hands. But I wasn't calling Kendra. I was calling a number I'd found hidden in my father's office 6 months ago, written on the back of a business card he'd tucked behind his passport. The number for my mother. The one he'd told me died when I was 3. It rang 4 times before a voice answered, professional, clipped, alive. Evelyn Chambers. "Mom." The word felt foreign on my tongue. It's Jade." The silence stretched so long, I thought she'd hung up. Then, quietly, "Jade, my God. Where are you?" "LaGuardia. Terminal B. Dad left me here. He said you were dead." Another silence, but this one vibrated with something dangerous. "I'll be there in 3 hours, she said. Don't move. Don't call him. And Jade? Pack light for warm weather. We're about to have the vacation you deserve." I sat in the airport cafe, spending Dad's guilt money on overpriced hot chocolate and a sandwich I couldn't eat. 3 hours felt like 3 years. I watched families board planes together, watched fathers hold their daughters' hands, watched mothers fuss over their children's carry-ons. When she walked in, I knew her immediately, not from memory. I'd been too young, but from the way she moved, like she owned the air around her. Evelyn Chambers wore a white pantsuit that probably cost more than our mortgage, her dark hair swept into a chignon that defied airport humidity. But it was her eyes that stopped me cold. My eyes, looking back at me with 12 years of banked fury. "My baby," she said, and her voice broke on the words. "My beautiful girl." I stood frozen as she crossed the space between us, her heels clicking on the terrazzo floor like a countdown. She stopped just short of touching me, her hands hovering like she was afraid I'd disappear. "He told me you were dead," I whispered. "I know." Her jaw tightened. "We have a lot to discuss. But first, do you like private jets? Because mine's waiting on the tarmac, and I think Turks and Caicos is lovely this time of year." "You want to take me to?" "The same resort, yes. The presidential suite. I own the property." Her smile was sharp as glass. "Your father doesn't know that, of course. He booked the standard package. We'll be neighbors." That's when I understood. This wasn't just a rescue. This was war. The private jet was like stepping into another universe. Cream leather seats, crystal decanters, a bedroom in the back. As we lifted off, Mom poured herself wine and me sparkling cider, then settled across from me with the look of someone preparing for battle. I never died, Jade. I left when you were 3, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. But your father," she paused, choosing her words carefully. "He was very good at making me look unstable. Very good at documenting my episodes. By the time I realized what he was doing, he'd built a case for full custody. But you could have fought." "I did fight. I spent everything I had on lawyers. But I was 23, Jade. He was 35 with an established career and a talent for manipulation. The court believed him. Supervised visits only, they said, for your safety." She pulled out a leather folder, thick with documents. Every birthday card returned. Every letter marked deceased, returned to sender. Every attempt to see you blocked. "He didn't just take you from me, he erased me." I flipped through the pages, seeing my name written in increasingly desperate handwriting. Birthday cards for ages 4, 5, 6. Letters asking about first days of school, lost teeth, favorite colors. All of them stamped with brutal efficiency. No such person. "So what changed?" I asked. "Why could I suddenly find your number?" Her smile was winter cold. "I changed. 12 years of rage is excellent motivation. I built a company, sold it, built another. I bought judges' vacation homes, legally, of course. I became someone who couldn't be erased, and I waited for you to be old enough to find me." The business card in his office. I had my assistant drop it during a meeting. I knew he'd keep it. He keeps everything that might be valuable later. I just had to wait for you to be curious enough to look. And if I hadn't called, then I would have waited until you were 18. But something told me Robert would eventually show his true colors. Narcissists always do. We landed in Turks and Caicos as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of justice. The resort sprawled before us, all white sand and infinity pools. Mom's suite was on the top floor, glass walls offering a view of the entire property, including the standard rooms where my father was probably unpacking with his preferred family. "There's something you should know," Mom said as we settled in. "The custody arrangement is still technically in effect. He has full legal custody until you're 18. But," she poured herself champagne, "abandoning a minor in an airport is frowned upon. As is lying about a parent's death. As is emotional abuse documented by security cameras." She opened her laptop, showing me an email thread with timestamps from 3 hours ago. "My lawyer is already filing emergency custody papers. Airport security footage of him leaving you. The amended flight records showing he removed you from the booking. Your ticket stub proving you were supposed to be on that trip. He'll fight back." "With what money?" Her smile widened. "Your father's very leveraged, Jade. The house, the cars, this vacation, all on credit. Brittany doesn't know, of course. She thinks she married successful. But I know every debt, every late payment, every financial corner he's cut. Including the fact that your child support payments have been going into an account that's supposed to be for your college, but is mysteriously empty. He stole my college fund. Among other things. But don't worry, I've been making parallel deposits into a trust in your name. You're actually quite wealthy, darling. You just didn't know it." The next morning, I woke to sunshine and the sound of my phone exploding with messages. Dad had discovered I wasn't at Kendra's. His texts evolved from annoyed to angry to panicked. "Where are you? This isn't funny, Jade. Answer your phone now. I'm calling the police if you don't respond." I showed them to Mom over breakfast on our private balcony. She sipped her coffee and smiled. "Let him panic. The police will be very interested to know why he's reporting you missing when he left you at an airport. When do I tell him where I am?" "You don't. My lawyer will." She checked her watch. "In about an hour, he'll be served with papers. Emergency custody petition, child abandonment charges, and a forensic accounting of your missing college fund. All delivered to his room here, in front of his new family. That's cruel." "No," she said quietly. "Cruel is telling a 3-year-old her mother is dead. Cruel is leaving a 15-year-old alone in an airport. This is consequences. We spent the morning by the pool, the private one attached to our suite. I tried to relax, but my nerves were shot. Then, at exactly 11 a.m., we heard it, shouting from several floors below. Mom handed me binoculars. 4th floor, 3rd balcony from the left. I felt like a spy, but I looked. There was Dad on his balcony, papers in hand, face purple with rage. Brittany stood behind him, her mouth open in shock. Through the glass doors, I could see Tyler, Madison, and Emma watching cartoons, oblivious to the bomb that had just detonated their vacation. My phone rang. Dad. Answer it, Mom said, on speaker. Where are you? His voice was volcanic. Turks and Caicos, I said calmly. You said to figure it out. I did. You're here? With her? He knew. Of course he knew. That woman is poison, Jade. She's manipulative. She's alive. I cut in. Yeah, I noticed that part. Funny how dead people can afford presidential suites. Get down here right now. We're going home. No. I am your father. Who abandoned me in an airport? Mom's lawyer says that's a felony, by the way. Said the security footage is really clear. The silence stretched, then Brittany's voice, shrill in the background. Robert, what is she talking about? What custody papers? What stolen college fund? I have to go, Dad said quickly. Actually, you don't. Mom called out, loud enough for him to hear. The island's not that big. Nowhere to run. He hung up. We watched from our balcony as the drama unfolded. Brittany stormed out 20 minutes later, dragging her kids toward the lobby. Dad followed, still clutching the legal papers, trying to explain. The other guests pretended not to stare as the perfect family imploded in paradise. I feel bad for the kids, I said. Tyler, Madison, and Emma. They didn't ask for this. Neither did you. Mom reminded me. But you're right. They're innocent. Which is why I've arranged for them to have a wonderful vacation in the kids' club with professional childcare, while their mother figures out who she married. That afternoon, while Dad dealt with lawyers and Brittany dealt with reality, Mom and I finally talked. Really talked. About the years stolen, the lies told, the daughter she'd never stopped fighting for even when the system failed her. I used to dream about you, she said. Every night for the first year. Then every week. Then every birthday. I'd imagine what you looked like, what you loved, who you were becoming. And now. Now I see you're stronger than I ever imagined. You called me Jade. After 12 years of thinking I was dead, you found that number and called. That takes courage I didn't have at your age. Or desperation. Sometimes they're the same thing. That evening, we watched the sunset from our balcony. Below, the resort continued its lazy rhythm. Couples strolling the beach, kids building sandcastles, families having the vacations they dreamed of. He's leaving tomorrow, Mom said, checking her phone. His credit card was declined for the rest of the stay. Brittany's already taken the kids back to their room. Apparently, she's filing for annulment. That was fast. Gold diggers usually are when the gold runs out. I should have felt guilty. Should have felt something for the man who'd raised me, even badly. But all I felt was free. The legal battles took months. Dad fought everything. The custody change, the abandonment charges, the financial investigation. But it's hard to argue with security footage, credit card records, and a paper trail of lies. Mom's lawyers were sharks who smelled blood. They found everything. Not just my stolen college fund, but years of tax fraud, hidden debts, and a secret gambling problem that explained where my child support actually went. In the end, I got to choose. The judge, a stern woman who looked like she'd seen everything, asked me directly, "Where do you want to live, Jade?" With my mom, I said, looking at the woman who'd spent 12 years becoming someone impossible to erase. With the parent who fought for me instead of against me. Dad's face crumpled. For a moment, just a moment, he looked like he understood what he'd lost. Then his lawyer whispered something. and his expression hardened again. "She's poisoned you against me," he said. "No," I replied. "You did that yourself." At Turnalby. Now, at 24, I sometimes think about that day at the airport. How different my life would have been if Tyler hadn't needed my seat, if Dad had chosen me instead of convenience, if I'd never found that hidden business card. But mostly, I think about the moment my mother walked into that terminal, power and fury wrapped in white linen, ready to go to war for a daughter she'd never stopped loving. Dad remarried eventually. Another woman with kids who needed a father figure. I heard from Kendra, who heard from someone else, that he tells people I chose money over family, that my mother bought me. But the truth is simpler. I chose the parent who chose me. Mom and I aren't perfect. 12 years is a long time to lose, and we're still learning each other. But we're learning together, building something real on the ashes of his lies. And sometimes, when I fly through LaGuardia, I stop at that cafe in Terminal B. I buy an overpriced hot chocolate and sit in the same spot where my life split in two, where a 15-year-old girl watched her father board a plane without her and learned that family isn't about blood or obligation or proximity. It's about who shows up when you're abandoned at the airport. It's about who answers when you call. It's about who fights for you when the world says you're not worth the effort. My name is Jade Chambers. I took my mother's name the day I turned 18. My father left me at an airport when I was 15, told me to figure it out. So I did. And I've been figuring it out ever since, one flight at a time. With the mother who refused to stay dead and the future he never thought I deserved. Turns out, the best journeys begin with missed flights and found mothers. Who knew abandonment could be a boarding pass to something better?
You got like $3 million, huh? Yeah, we're already building a fancy house for us. Got my dream kitchen planned. My mother-in-law says all dreamy-like. I've quit my job. Gonna start a business with Ashley's inheritance. My husband says, looking way too happy about it. Wait a sec. Ashley didn't get any inheritance yet. You're quitting your job and building stuff already. What's the deal? Let's not fib here. It's obvious you got money. How about we take a trip before jumping into this house thing? Hawaii, maybe? My father-in-law adds, making things even more confusing. What are they even thinking? They want to spend the money I got from my mom on whatever they want. I'm mad as heck, but I don't know what to do. A few months back, let me take you there. My name's Ashley. I'm 38, and I teach at a high school. I've been married to David for 12 years. He's 2 years older and works in an office. Right after we tied the knot, our daughter Julie came along, and ever since, my life's been a whirlwind of work and raising her. Today, we're off to see my mom at the hospital. Hey, Grandma, it's been a bit. Ah, Julie dear, come here, my mom says, gently running her fingers through Julie's hair. She looks thinner, and her face isn't as lively. There's this guy in a suit standing by her bed. He nods at me as I glance his way and then leaves. Mom, who's that guy? Just someone I know, nothing to worry about. How are you holding up, Ashley? And David, is he doing okay? My mom's eyes, a soft shade of blue, twinkle as she smiles. She met my dad when he was in the import-export business overseas, and she moved to the U.S. to marry him. Raising a kid in a new country couldn't have been easy, but they did it together. Mom taught me a lot growing up, which is why I'm able to teach now. I'm really grateful to my parents for giving me such a good upbringing. Dad passed away a few years back, and since then, Mom's been on her own, dealing with illness and hospital stays. She handed off the business to a relative and now spends her days quietly in the hospital. I'm good, Mom. Anything you need. Just having you and Julie here is more than enough. After chatting with Mom for a while, Julie and I head home. Julie fills Mom in on school stuff and the latest book she's read. She's 10, a tricky age, but we get along well. Even setting aside my mom goggles, I think she's a smart, honest kid who's growing up nicely. We're back. Hey, welcome back. How's my mom doing? David asks when we walk in. Same old, same old. And you? How was your seminar? Heard good things about it. Excited for the next one. Lately, David's been going to seminars about quitting his job and starting a side hustle. Seems like he's after more money, but his job's not bad, and we're doing fine with my income. I don't like how obsessed he is with money. Probably gets it from his parents. They've always been tight with cash, always asking for small amounts whenever we see them. They've never bothered with Christmas gifts for Julie either. Thankfully, they live far away, so we don't see them much. David helps out around the house, though, so it's manageable. As long as I've got my mom, David, Julie, and our simple life, I'm happy. Then one day, I got a call from the hospital. Mom's condition had taken a turn for the worse, and she was in critical condition. When we reached the hospital, my mom was barely hanging on. Mom, Grandma. Ashley, I've always wanted you to be happy. Take care of Julie. She means everything. I love you. Those were her final words. My mom, who poured her heart into raising me alongside my dad, who cherished Julie more than anything. Seeing her peaceful face in the coffin, all I could do was cry. Julie stood by me, crying too. A while after Mom passed, an envelope arrived from a law firm. Ashley opened it, puzzled by the unfamiliar sender. Inside was a document. I've been given your mother's will, leaving everything to you. Ashley and her mom never talked about inheritance, so she was surprised. But with the letter in hand, she decided to visit the law firm alone. Hi, I'm Ed, the attorney, said the man with glasses, the same one from the hospital room. You were there when I visited my mom, Ashley said, recognizing him. Yeah, we met there. Your mom entrusted me with something, Ed said gently, almost bringing Ashley to tears. 500 million. Ashley exclaimed in shock. Yeah, Ashley. When your dad passed, you let your mom have all the inheritance. Now, with what she had and what she left you, after taxes, that's the sum, Ed explained. I knew my parents were well off, but I never asked for money after getting married, and I avoided talking about inheritance. It's overwhelming, Ashley said, feeling a bit dizzy, but it's a sign of love from my mom. I'll leave it to you, Ed. Your mom cared about you more than anything. She asked me to assist you if needed. You can talk to me about anything, Ed said. Thank you, I really appreciate it. Ashley nodded to Ed and left the room. As time went by, nearing her mother's 49th day memorial, David, her husband, started bringing up her mother's inheritance often. He knew they were wealthy when they married, but Ashley found his constant probing uncomfortable, especially during her mourning period. Whenever she asked him to stop, he would, but then subtly bring it up again later. And then there were her in-laws. At her mother's memorial, her father-in-law offered, Ashley, if you're worried about the inheritance, we can help. We've had our share of inheritance disputes. It can get complicated when unmarried siblings pass away. If you need help, we're here. Her mother-in-law chimed in. Sure, Ashley, who had never felt inclined to involve them before, could only offer a vague response as they pretended to understand. About 3 months after her mother's passing, David, who had been relatively quiet, finally reached his breaking point. Have you gotten your mom's inheritance yet? David's question sent a shiver down Ashley's spine. Not yet, Ashley fibbed. The process is complicated. It's been 3 months since she passed, right? Why the delay? David pressed, but then abruptly announced he was heading to bed, leaving Ashley with a gnawing feeling in her chest. The next day, while Ashley and Julie were cleaning up after dinner, the doorbell rang. Julie rushed to answer it, and Ashley, peering out from the kitchen, saw her in-laws along with David returning from work. Why are they here? Ashley whispered to Julie. It's okay, Mom. I'll go to my room, Julie said, darting away nervously. What's happening? Ashley asked as her in-laws entered. Never mind that, Ed, her father-in-law said cheerfully, grabbing a beer from the fridge. We're here to celebrate. You inherited over $300 million. We've even started building a duplex for us all to live in, complete with your dream kitchen. Listen, Ashley, be happy. Her mother-in-law chimed in dreamily. We're planning to build a duplex. We've put down half of our savings and some money Mom and Dad saved up. The loan's in my name, but you can settle it all with your inheritance. It's a way to give back to them. What? I quit my job. I'm starting a business with your inheritance, David announced, looking oddly pleased. Wait a minute. What's going on? I haven't received any inheritance yet. And why are you quitting your job and talking about a duplex? Let's not play games. It's obvious you got an inheritance. How about we take a trip before diving into house plans? Maybe Hawaii. As chaos unfolded, David and her mother-in-law seemed to agree with Ed. David, with a mocking laugh, said, "You're being miserly, Ashley. We checked it out because you kept saying you hadn't received the inheritance. If you don't process it within 3 months, you can't refuse it. So whether you told the truth or not, you've inherited, right? Considering my father-in-law's company, it must be more than 300 million. We'll live comfortably thanks to them. Thanks, Mom. Make sure to arrange money for the duplex and my capital." Hearing David speak like that left her feeling lightheaded. But what kind of people are these, wanting to use my precious inheritance from my mom as they please, indulging in luxury? I was burning with anger, but I couldn't speak. I worried about Julie, who was in the other room. "I'm stepping out for a bit," I called out to them, but they were too engrossed in discussing their plans for the inheritance. I left without even grabbing my wallet. The night air was brisk, and as I reached a familiar hilltop park, the tears started flowing. I cried silently, feeling the weight of frustration and exploitation. My emotions were a jumble, but I couldn't bring myself to mention divorce, not with Julie still in the picture. My mother's words echoed in my mind. Take care of Julie above all else, and I cried anew. Suddenly, someone approached me. Startled, I looked up, and they began speaking softly. 3 days later, I called my husband and in-laws to a restaurant with private rooms. "So you're back home after that day. Did you withdraw the money, Ashley? You shouldn't leave without telling your husband." Ignoring their words, I handed them a document, a filled-out divorce notice. "David, I want a divorce." "What? What's this?" David's panic was palpable, and my in-laws exchanged worried glances. "I can't continue like this. I'm done," I replied firmly, facing David's escalating anger. "You're leaving us just because you got the inheritance? You've become so greedy," Ashley retorted. "Ever since I inherited from my mom, you've been out of control, quitting jobs, planning to live with your parents without consulting me, using my savings to build a house, and now planning trips. Who's the one who changed when the money came? I can't stay with people like this. And you can't just divorce me out of nowhere." "That's right. Half of everything it is David's, including our savings and half of the inheritance," David and my in-laws barked as they closed in on me. Just as I was about to respond, the door opened, revealing Julie and attorney Ed. "Dad, Grandpa, Grandma, you should know better. Mom's inheritance isn't shared property, right, Mr. Ed?" "I'm attorney Ed. Ashley's mom entrusted me with this matter, and I've been advising her," Ed explained with a bow, leaving David flustered. "But wait, inherited property isn't shared. It's not subject to division," he clarified. "What? That can't be right. Is this a mistake?" David stuttered. "That can't be." I was stunned by their reaction. It seemed they genuinely believed they were entitled to my inheritance. "If that's the case, it's even more reason not to divorce. I'll stick by you no matter what," my husband shouted with bloodshot eyes, disregarding everything. "Stop it," Julie intervened calmly. "Since Mom inherited, Dad hasn't thought about her once. Grandpa and Grandma only care about money. They never even mention me. I can't see them as family." David and my in-laws were taken aback. When I was upset about the inheritance, Julie spoke up. She told me, "Dad, Grandpa, and Grandma are wrong. They're trying to take Grandma's legacy. Mom, I'm with you. Let's fight this together." With those words, I made a decision, contacted Ed, and arranged this meeting. "Julie, that's not true. Dad wants what's best for you. And you'd be happier with us, wouldn't you?" My husband and in-laws pleaded desperately. Children shouldn't interfere, they added. Julie, with a look of frustration, said, I'm going with Mom. I can't stay with you anymore, and turned away. We've made our decision. Julie and I will leave, I said calmly, which angered David. I've never cheated, and you can't force a divorce. I'll get a lawyer. We'll get that money, he threatened. Then I'll handle it from here. Ed intervened quietly. The crux here is whether there are serious grounds for ending the marriage, quitting his job, using our savings without consent, making decisions unilaterally, and Julie expressing her distress. We have multiple arguments to support our case. Additionally, your daughter has recorded evidence of all of you pressuring Ashley for her inheritance. That should serve as compelling evidence. Damn it, David slumped, and my in-laws went pale. After Matt, Julie, and I left the restaurant. A year later, thanks to Ed's efforts, my divorce with David was finalized. Julie and I moved into my mother's old house, but we received numerous letters pleading for reconciliation, and David was spotted near Julie's school, prompting us to seek a restraining order with Ed's help. After that, things quieted down. Rumor has it they did build a duplex. My retired in-laws had to find jobs at a factory, and despite David's attempts, he ended up doing manual labor. According to neighbors, their new home was rife with constant arguments, making them unpopular in the neighborhood. Julie and I continued to live peacefully, supporting each other. Recently, Julie expressed a desire to study abroad in my mother's homeland. To sever ties completely with my ex-husband, we decided to move overseas, using a portion of my mother's inheritance. I'm certain she would approve. Julie seems to thrive in her new school, and I've found work as a teacher there. Here's hoping these tranquil days persist.
Ma'am, your father coded twice last night. We need a family member to make decisions about his care since your mother left the country and turned off her phone. The ICU nurse's words hit me like ice water as I stood in the doorway of room 314, staring at the man who'd raised me, now connected to a ventilator, while Instagram showed my mother and siblings toasting champagne on a Balinese beach. But the real shock wasn't their abandonment, it was discovering I was the only name on Dad's medical power of attorney, and the only person with access to the $20 million he'd hidden from the family vultures. My hands trembled as I scrolled through my sister Natalie's Instagram story, living our best life. #BaliBliss #family vacation, posted 6 hours ago. In the background, my mother Gloria raised a martini, her fresh Botox making her smile unnaturally tight. My brother Carson was doing shots with some local girls. My other sister, Philippa, was getting a massage on the beach. Meanwhile, their father, my father, lay dying alone in Mercy General, his chest rising and falling only because a machine forced it to. How long has he been here? I asked the nurse, Sandra, according to her badge. 9 days. The stroke was massive. He's been on life support for a week. She consulted her chart. Your mother signed the admission papers but said she had a pre-planned trip that couldn't be cancelled. She left you as the emergency contact. She left me? I hadn't spoken to my family in 3 years. Not since the fight that drove me away. Are you sure? Sandra showed me the paperwork. There it was, in Dad's shaky handwriting, emergency medical decision maker, Theodora King, daughter. Not Mom, not Golden Boy Carson, not the twins, Natalie and Philippa, who'd never left home and lived off Dad's credit cards. Me, the black sheep who'd been told I was no longer part of the family. There's more, Sandra said gently. Your father was conscious for a few hours after the stroke. He insisted on seeing a lawyer, made some changes. She handed me an envelope with my name on it. Inside, documents that made my blood run cold, power of attorney, medical directives, and a note in Dad's handwriting. Thea, they'll let me die for the money. You're the only one who ever loved me for me. I'm sorry for everything. The account information is in my safe. You know the combination, your real birthday, not the one your mother told everyone. Dad. My real birthday, the day I was actually born, 2 months premature, not the date Mom had told everyone so people wouldn't know she'd gotten pregnant before the wedding. Only Dad and I knew the truth. I need a minute, I told Sandra. Of course, but Thea, we need to know about the DNR. Your mother signed one, but your father's lawyer says you have override power now. I looked at the machines keeping Dad alive, at the man who'd been weak when I needed him to be strong, who'd let Mom and my siblings treat me like an outsider, but who'd apparently seen the truth in the end. My phone buzzed. A notification from the family group chat I'd been removed from years ago, except now I was somehow back in it. Carson, holy shit. The cards aren't working. Natalie, mine too. The hotel says they're declined. Philippa, Mom, what's happening? Gloria, must be a bank error. I'll call them. I knew what had happened. Dad had made me power of attorney. That included financial power of attorney. And the first thing I'd done while sitting in that hospital room was freeze every account I had access to. My phone rang. Mom. What did you do? She screeched without preamble. Hello to you too, Gloria. Enjoying Bali? The accounts are frozen, all of them. The bank says someone with power of attorney. That would be me, I said calmly. Dad's power of attorney, legal and financial. Funny how you forgot to mention he was in the ICU when you left for vacation. Silence. Then, how did you even know? You haven't been home in years. Mrs. Patterson next door called me, said she hadn't seen Dad in over a week and was worried. Imagine my surprise when I found out he'd had a massive stroke and his loving family had abandoned him to go party in Bali. We didn't abandon him. This trip was planned months ago. And Dad's life support? Was that planned too? The doctors said there was nothing more they could do. No point in all of us sitting around watching him die. So you left him alone, not even a private nurse, just abandoned him like he was nothing. Don't be dramatic, Theodora. You hated him anyway, after all those fights. I hated what he let you do to me, I corrected. I hated his weakness, but I never hated him, unlike you, who only loved his wallet. How dare you? The accounts stay frozen until you come home, I interrupted. All of you, you have 24 hours. We can't just leave, the hotel, the flights. Figure it out, 24 hours, or I start making permanent changes. I hung up and blocked her number, then I did the same for my siblings. They needed to stew in their panic for a while. I turned back to Dad, pulled a chair next to his bed and took his hand. It was cold, but I could feel a weak pulse. I'm here, Dad, I whispered. I'm not leaving you alone again. His eyes fluttered behind closed lids. The machines beeped steadily. Sandra returned. Have you decided about the DNR? Tear it up, I said. We're not giving up on him yet. She smiled sadly. I should warn you, the insurance only covers another week. After that, it's private pay. It could be hundreds of thousands. Money isn't an issue, not anymore, not with what I'd found in Dad's files. I spent the next hours going through the documents Dad had left. The real shock wasn't the 20 million he'd hidden from Mom, it was how he'd hidden it. Trusts in my name, accounts opened when I was a baby, properties purchased under LLCs that listed me as sole beneficiary. He'd been planning this for 30 years, ever since the day he'd discovered Mom's first affair. There was a letter in the safe, yellow with age. My dear Theodora. If you're reading this, then I've finally found the courage to do what I should have done when you were born. Your mother never wanted you. When she got pregnant, she tried to convince me you weren't mine, but I knew better. You have my mother's eyes, my grandfather's stubborn chin. You were mine from the moment I first held you. I've been weak. I let them treat you poorly because I was afraid of losing them too, but I've watched you grow strong despite us. You're the only real thing in this family of facades. The money is yours. It was always meant to be yours. Your mother doesn't know about most of it. She was never as clever as she thought. Use it to build the life you deserve. All my love. Dad. I was crying when my phone buzzed. The family group chat had exploded. Natalie, the hotel is kicking us out. They want immediate payment. Carson, this is insane. That money is family money. Philippa, Thea, stop being a vindictive bitch. Gloria, I'm calling our lawyer. I typed one response. Your lawyer is Harold Manning, right? Check your email. I'd already contacted Harold, Dad's attorney, sent him the power of attorney documents. He'd confirmed what I already knew. As Dad's legal representative, I controlled everything until he either recovered or passed. My phone rang. Unknown international number. What? I answered. Thea? Carson's voice. Panicked. Look, I get it. We've been shitty, but we're stuck here. No credit cards. No access to cash. The hotel is threatening to call the police. Then you better find a way home. We can't. The airlines won't change our tickets without payment. Sounds like a you problem. For fuck's sake. Thea, we could be arrested. Then I guess you better hope the Balinese jails have good Wi-Fi for all those Instagram posts. I hung up. The next 12 hours were a blur of increasingly frantic messages. They tried everything: guilt, rage, threats, even attempts at kindness. Natalie sent old photos of us as kids, before she'd learned from Mom that I was the expendable one. Carson tried brotherly concern. Philippa attempted tears. Gloria just sent threats, legal ones, mostly, all of which Harold assured me were baseless. But the real entertainment came from their social media. The influencer twins, who usually posted every hour, went dark. Carson's girlfriend started posting worried messages about not being able to reach him. Their friends began asking if everything was okay. The family facade was cracking in real time. Hour 18. Sandra found me dozing in the chair beside Dad. "Thea, there's been a change." I jerked awake, heart pounding, but she was smiling. "He's showing signs of increased brain activity. His pupils are responding. It might be nothing, but it's something. The doctors want to try reducing the sedation. See if he responds. With your permission? Do it." As they adjusted his medications, my phone rang. "Harold." "Thea, I've had an interesting call. Your mother is at the U.S. Embassy in Bali. She's claiming you've stolen family funds and demanding they intervene. And they laughed at her. Turns out power of attorney is legal in Bali too. However, she's managed to scrape together enough cash to buy tickets home. They'll be landing in about 6 hours. Good. Are you prepared for what comes next? They'll come straight to the hospital. Let them come. Thea, I feel I should tell you something. Your father and I discussed this scenario. If he recovered, he planned to divorce your mother and disinherit the others. He said you were the only one who'd ever visited him without asking for money." I looked at Dad, still unconscious but fighting. "He never told me any of this. He was ashamed, but he loved you, more than you know." After Harold hung up, I sat with Dad in the quiet ICU, held his hand, talked to him about everything and nothing, told him about my life in Seattle, the coffee shop I'd opened with my savings, the woman I was dating who made me laugh, the life I'd built without them. "I forgive you," I whispered, "for being weak, for not protecting me. I forgive you." His hand twitched in mine, so slight I might have imagined it. Hour 22. They arrived. I heard them before I saw them, Gloria's shrill voice demanding to see her husband, Carson's blustering threats about lawsuits, the twins whining about their ruined vacation. They burst into the ICU like a storm of designer clothes and righteous fury. Gloria led the charge, her vacation tan clashing with her furious expression. "You little bitch," she hissed. "How dare you?" "Mrs. King?" Sandra stepped between us. "This is an ICU. If you can't maintain appropriate behavior, I'll have security escort you out." "I'm his wife. And she's his medical power of attorney," Sandra said calmly. "Legally, she makes the decisions." Gloria turned to Dad, and for the first time since they'd arrived, actually looked at him. Her face went pale beneath the tan. "He looks like he's dying?" I supplied. "Yes, that's what happens when you abandon someone on life support to go party in Bali." "We didn't abandon him. We thought. You thought he'd die while you were gone and you'd come back to an inheritance," Carson said bluntly. Everyone turned to stare at him. "What? We're all thinking it." At least he was honest. "Except there won't be an inheritance," I said. "Not for you. You can't do that," Natalie shrieked. "That money belongs to all of us. Actually, it belongs to Dad, and he gave me the power to protect it, which I will." "From his family?" Philippa demanded. "From the vultures who left him to die alone? Yes." Gloria pulled out her phone. "I'm calling our lawyer." "Harold? He's already chosen sides." Dad's side, which, coincidentally, is my side now. "You poisoned him against us." "No, Gloria, you did that all by yourselves. Every time you spent his money while mocking him behind his back. Every time you cheated and thought he didn't know. Every time you treated his love like an ATM machine. At least we stayed," she spat. "We didn't run away like a coward." "You're right, you stayed, and you bled him dry while smiling to his face. Which is worse, the daughter who left to save herself, or the family who stayed to feast on his corpse?" "He's not dead yet," Carson protested. "No thanks to you." A soft sound from the bed made us all freeze. Dad's eyes were open, unfocused, confused, but open. "Dad?" I grabbed his hand. "Dad, can you hear me?" His eyes found mine, focused with effort. His lips moved, no sound coming out. "Get the doctor," Sandra called, rushing to check his vitals. But Dad's hand gripped mine with surprising strength. His eyes moved to Gloria and the others, then back to me. The corner of his mouth twitched in what might have been a smile. Then he closed his eyes again. The doctor rushed in, pushing us all back, everyone out, now. In the hallway, we stood in awkward silence. Gloria was crying, real tears or performative. I couldn't tell. The siblings huddled together, whispering. I stood apart, as always. He recognized us, Natalie said softly. He's going to be okay. Maybe, I said, but okay or not, things are going to change. You can't keep us from our father, Gloria said. I won't, but I will protect him. From all of you, if necessary. We're his family. So am I. The only difference is, I came back when he needed me. You came back when your credit card stopped working. The doctor emerged. He's responsive, weak, but responsive. It's a good sign. We'll run more tests, but this is better than we hoped. Can we see him? Gloria asked. One at a time, and keep it brief. The doctor looked at me. As his medical POA, you decide who goes first. I felt the weight of their stares, the expectation that I'd follow the family hierarchy, wife first, then eldest son, then the twins, the same order that had always put me last. I'll go, I said, then we'll see. Gloria started to protest, but Carson stopped her. Let her, she's holding all the cards. Smart boy, maybe there was hope for him yet. I sat with Dad for 10 minutes. He drifted in and out, but when he was conscious, his eyes found mine. When I told him the others were here, his heart rate spiked, not in a good way. It's okay, I assured him. I'm handling it, you just focus on getting better. He squeezed my hand, mouthed something that looked like sorry. I know, Dad, we'll talk about it when you're stronger. When I came out, I made a decision that surprised even me. He's tired, but he wants to see you, one at a time, 5 minutes each. Gloria first. They filed in one by one. I watched through the window as each had their moment. Gloria cried and begged forgiveness, though for what, she didn't specify. Carson stood awkwardly, talked about sports. The twins took selfies until Sandra stopped them. Afterwards, we gathered in the family conference room. So what now? Carson asked. You've made your point. We're here. We're sorry. What do you want? I want Dad to recover without stress. I want him to get the care he needs without worrying about your spending. I want him to know he's loved for more than his money. We do love him, Philippa said weakly. Then prove it. Show up every day, not for money, not for Instagram, but because he's your father. Can you do that? They exchanged glances. And the accounts? Will be managed appropriately. Medical expenses first, then living expenses, reasonable ones. The rest stays frozen until Dad can make his own decisions again. That could be months, Gloria protested. Then you better learn to budget. Carson, you still have that job at the firm, right? And the twins, you both have degrees you've never used. Maybe it's time. You expect us to work? Natalie gasped. I expect you to be adults, for once. The next weeks were a revelation. Dad improved slowly but steadily. The family, forced to live on Carson's salary and whatever jobs the twins could find, began to change. Not dramatically, not completely, but in small ways. Gloria took a part-time job at a boutique. The twins started a styling business that actually took off. Carson worked harder at the firm, got promoted on his own merit. And they showed up. Every day, someone was there with Dad, reading to him, watching TV with him, just sitting quietly as he slept. Were they perfect? No. Gloria still complained about the account restrictions. The twins still posted everything on social media. Carson still talked too much about money. But they were there. And Dad noticed, as he grew stronger, more aware, he watched them with wonder. This family that had taken him for granted was finally seeing him as a person, not a bank account. 3 months later, Dad was released to a rehabilitation facility. As we packed up his room, he pulled me aside. The money, he whispered, what I left for you, it's still yours. I know, Dad. I mean it, whatever happens with the others, that's yours. You earned it by being the only one who loved me without a price tag. Dad. No, let me say this, I was a coward. I let them hurt you because I was afraid to be alone. But you were brave enough to leave, and brave enough to come back. I'm proud of you, Thea. I love you too, Dad. 6 months later, Dad was home, walking with a cane, speaking slowly but clearly. The family gathered for his first Sunday dinner back at the house. It wasn't perfect. Gloria still drank too much wine. The twins still gossiped meanly. Carson still dominated conversations. But when Dad raised his glass for a toast, they all fell silent. To second chances, he said, and to Thea, who saved us all. They drank, some more willingly than others. Later, as I helped Dad to his chair, he whispered, I'm changing my will, fairly this time, everyone gets something. But you get what you deserve. I already have what I wanted, Dad, a family that shows up. Do you forgive them? I looked at Gloria laughing at something Carson said, at the twins actually helping with dishes, at this imperfect, difficult, slowly healing family. I'm working on it. And me, do you forgive me? I kissed his forehead. Already done, Dad, already done. The family trust was never fully restored, how could it be? But something new grew in its place, something more honest, if more fragile. And every Sunday, we gathered, not for money or appearances, but because that's what families do, even broken ones, even families held together by nothing more than stubborn love and frozen bank accounts. Sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's everything.
What's going on with you two? I exclaimed as I walked in from work, only to find my husband and daughter sprawled on the living room floor. What's wrong? I rushed to their side, panic rising in my chest. They were both in the midst of a seizure, struggling to breathe. Without hesitation, I dialed for paramedics, and they were swiftly transported for treatment. As we rushed to the hospital, I was bombarded with questions, but all I could offer were fragmented observations. I was as clueless as anyone about what had caused this sudden collapse. In the hospital, as the doctors tended to them, I was ushered into a separate room, heart pounding with dread. Are they okay? I asked, desperation lacing my voice. They'll be fine, the doctor assured me, especially Bonnie. The gravity of the situation hit me like a ton of bricks. My strength seemed to evaporate at the doctor's words. From that moment, I was thrust into a whirlwind of uncertainty. My name is Wendy, and for the past 5 years, I've been married to Harley, living with our daughter Bonnie. I met Harley during my days as a post office clerk. He frequented the office to send out his handmade items for sale on a flea market app. What began as mere clerical exchanges gradually evolved into conversations, and soon I learned his name. After one routine transaction, Harley left me a piece of paper, hastily scrawled with his phone number. I hesitated, unsure of what to do. Eventually, curiosity won over, and I dialed the number. Hello. His voice on the other end was a mix of surprise and anticipation. Is this Wendy? He asked. Yes, it's me. Did you give me your number? I couldn't help but chuckle. I had been jittery before making the call, but somehow those nerves dissipated as soon as we began talking. Before I knew it, an hour had flown by, and Harley casually asked me out on a date for the following week. Next week sounds perfect, I replied, feeling a surge of excitement. I'm looking forward to it. And so our dates became a regular occurrence. With each outing, we grew closer, our connection deepening organically. It wasn't long before our companionship blossomed into something more meaningful. There were no grand declarations of love, just a gradual understanding between us. When I was 26 and Harley was 28, he proposed. My response was an enthusiastic yes. I envisioned a blissful married life ahead of us, but reality had other plans. I'm glad your parents were so welcoming, Harley remarked as we walked towards my childhood home. I hope mine will be too. I'm not so sure about that, I admitted, but let's hope for the best. As we entered, my parents greeted us warmly, offering their congratulations. It was a heartwarming moment until my sister, Meryl, appeared. Did you forget to tell Mr. Harley about me? She teased, catching me off guard. I'm sorry, I should have explained, I stammered, feeling a pang of guilt for not preparing Harley. Once the confusion was cleared up, pleasantries were exchanged, but little did I know, this encounter would unravel into a nightmare. Afterwards, my sister and I discussed the situation. Our relationship had never been particularly close, especially after I left home to support our ailing mother. I had sacrificed my education fund for her medical expenses, a decision she couldn't comprehend. I harbor no regrets about the choice I made. Sacrificing my education fund for my ailing mother was a decision I stand by. However, Meryl didn't take kindly to it. That moment became a turning point in our relationship. Despite having walked similar paths until then, from that juncture, we drifted apart. Our communication dwindled, and we seldom kept in touch. Even during occasional visits home, We made a point to avoid each other as much as possible. That dynamic remained unchanged. Yet, strangely, she seemed genuinely pleased about my marriage. I thought this might break the ice, I remarked, attempting to lighten the tension. That's nice. I wish I could find someone like Harley, she mused wistfully. I'm sure you'll meet someone wonderful, I reassured her. But her response caught me off guard. Actually, I think he may have already appeared, she hinted with an enigmatic smile that lingered in my mind. And so our married life began. With the arrival of our daughter, we reached the pinnacle of happiness. However, as time passed, subtle changes crept into our lives. Harley started coming home unusually late and began venturing out more frequently, even on holidays. Then, tragedy struck. Upon returning from work one day, I found both my husband and daughter lying unconscious in the living room. Panic surged through me as I rushed to their side, calling for help. Paramedics arrived swiftly, whisking them away for treatment. What happened? I asked frantically as they were taken to the hospital. I don't know, I confessed, my mind reeling with fear and confusion. At the hospital, after hours of agonizing wait, the doctor finally called me aside. Are they okay? I asked, bracing myself for the worst. They're stable now, the doctor assured me, but they've suffered from acute nicotine pesticide poisoning. Relief flitted through me, but it was short-lived as the gravity of the situation sank in. Caught in a whirlwind of emotions, I found myself grappling with an unexpected turn of events. I am sorry, I mumbled, struggling to process the ordeal. I was taken aback by the diagnosis. What is acute nicotine pesticide poisoning? I inquired, my voice trembling with worry. It's a poisoning caused by ingesting an ingredient found in pesticides, the doctor explained. Symptoms include dizziness, convulsions, and difficulty breathing. Dread gripped me as I absorbed the severity of the situation. The doctors bombarded me with questions, probing for any clues about what could have caused it. But I was at a loss. I couldn't even recall what they had eaten before I arrived home. They were admitted to the hospital for further examination, but the next day brought a new wave of distress. Police officers arrived at our home. What's going on? I demanded, my heart racing with anxiety. This case appears to be more than just an accident. One officer stated, we'll be investigating it as a potential crime. Can you tell us exactly how you found them? Their scrutinizing gazes made me uneasy. It was clear they harbored suspicions, though I couldn't fathom why. Nevertheless, I cooperated with their inquiries, hoping to dispel any doubts. During the search, an officer discovered pesticides in our trash can. I don't know anything about this, I protested, genuine confusion clouding my mind. I don't remember buying it. Despite my protests, I was escorted to the police station for further questioning. I reasoned that fleeing would only deepen their suspicions. At the station, they took my fingerprints, which were later matched to those found on the pesticide container. I was detained pending the results. Anxiety gnawed at me as I awaited the outcome. When the results came back, the officer's words struck me like a blow. Your fingerprints match those on the pesticide, he declared. You're now a suspect in an attempted murder case. I was stunned. How could this be? I couldn't comprehend why my fingerprints were on the pesticide, let alone why I would harm my own family. As I sat in the interrogation room, my mind raced with confusion and fear. The interrogation stretched on, each question digging deeper into my actions on that fateful day. It started like any other day. I began, my voice trembling. I went to work at the post office as usual. After my usual lunch at a nearby cafe, which lasted about an hour, I returned home. I recounted to the officer. He seemed satisfied, but then he asked about the day before. That afternoon, I went to a nearby supermarket and bought a cake, I explained. After that, I went straight home. The officer then presented me with a laptop. Take a look at this, he said, showing me a video clip from a surveillance camera at a store. In the footage, a woman stood in front of a shelf stocked with pesticides. Is that not you in the video? The officer inquired. My heart skipped a beat as I scrutinized the screen. What is this? Why, it's me, I gasped, But then realization dawned on me. No, wait, this is not me. The officers exchanged incredulous glances. Are you sure? One asked cautiously. I pointed to the screen, where I noticed a detail. Look here, I urged, indicating a mole near the woman's mouth. I don't have a mole. This isn't me. It's my twin sister, Meryl. The revelation stunned even the police. Your twin sister. They echoed in disbelief. As they reviewed the evidence, they found footage of me at the supermarket wearing the same clothes as the woman in the video. However, no one outside my family would know if I had left the house dressed like that. It all makes sense now, I murmured. That's what it meant. Concern flooded me as I realized the implications. What has happened to my husband? I inquired anxiously. If he's out of the hospital and back at home, please check on him immediately. I believe he's been seeing my sister. The officer looked taken aback. How can you be so sure? Taking a deep breath, I explained, because they're having an affair. They're trying to frame me. But your husband is a victim too, isn't he? That way, suspicion would be diverted. The gravity of the situation seemed to dawn on the police. We'll need to investigate further, the officer conceded. I understand, I replied. But please check on both of them. It'll reveal everything. I understood that I was being detained. Typically, I would have been arrested immediately, but they decided to hold off on my arrest, recognizing the significance of my testimony. It felt like I was hanging on by a thread. 2 days later, I was summoned back to the interrogation room. As you suspected, we looked into your husband and found evidence of an affair, the officer informed me. We spoke to him, and he confessed to everything. I'm sorry about this, the officer continued. It was our oversight. For the time being, I was exonerated, but the ordeal was far from over. The betrayal by Harley and Meryl cut deep, especially considering they had implicated my young daughter. I knew I had to confront Harley. You've done a despicable thing, I told him, struggling to contain my anger. I can't believe you involved Bonnie in this to frame me. Meryl must have been behind this. Indeed, it turned out that Meryl had orchestrated the entire scheme. She had suggested preparing pesticides to frame me as a murderer. Harley, under her influence, had bought the pesticide and laced the cake with it while I was away at work, just as I had come to visit him. So, where is Meryl? I demanded. I don't know, Harley confessed. I couldn't reach her before the police took me. She must have run away. You'll pay for your crimes, I warned him. You're not getting away with this. As expected, Meryl had disappeared, but the police eventually found her hiding out at a man's home she had met through a dating service. She was taken to the police station, where she confessed to everything. I rushed to the police station to confront her. Meryl, why did you do this to me? Because I've never liked you since you left, she spat back. Then she revealed her resentment, explaining how she felt inferior to me for sacrificing my education for our family's sake. Despite the pain and betrayal, I couldn't help but feel a pang of pity for my sister. Her negative feelings towards me had festered over time, culminating in incidents like this one. Was that why you approached Harley? I asked, struggling to comprehend her motives. I just thought that if I slept with your husband, you would despair, she confessed coldly. When he came to greet me at the wedding, I knew I could manipulate him. In other words, she didn't choose Harley for who he was. She chose him because he was my husband. He said he was going to be with you when I was gone. That stupid man had a crush on me. I just made it easy for me to take advantage of him, she continued, devoid of remorse. I can't forgive Harley, but still, he was just being used by her. Despite the betrayal, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pity for Harley. Why did you target Bonnie? I demanded, struggling to contain my anger. Of course, it's because she's your daughter, she retorted, callously confirming my suspicions. Well, whatever the reason, what you did is unforgivable. You'll pay for it for the rest of your life, I vowed, my voice trembling with anger. With those words, she was taken away. The trial of Harley and Meryl commenced. My husband was accused of framing me for attempted murder and faced numerous charges, In the end, he was sentenced to prison, including payment of alimony. Meryl, too, faced trial, and despite her execution, she would soon serve her sentence and come out. However, even if they atoned for their crimes, the scars of their actions would linger. They would forever be labeled as ex-convicts. Meanwhile, my parents offered to move in with us. "Would you and Bonnie like to come live with us?" my mother proposed. "I think your mom would be happy if you did." Though hesitant at first, I accepted her offer for my mother's sake, who was exhausted from the ordeal. With my mother's recovery and Bonnie's cheerful presence, our new life together began. From now on, the four of us would reside in a new house, finding happiness together.